and welcome to our seminar today. A sneak peek into an exclusive industry report. I have a huge favor to ask you before we begin. My name is Katrina. I am in charge of training and event education here at Remo. If you can hear me, if I am coming in loud and clear, can you please do me a favor by saying hello inside the chat over to the right-hand side, or in 1 second, you will see our favorite little reaction, our emoji reactions down at the very bottom. You can say hi, you can clap if I'm coming in okay. Perfect. A couple of things just to let you guys know. You can chat with everybody in the entire room in the general chat, people at your table by going to the table chat, or have private conversations in our private chat. But if you have a question, there are a lot of us here in the chat and it can get lost. So if you can please navigate to that Q&A tab over on the right-hand side of the screen, click it. You can ask a question. And then once you ask your question there, it will be very easy for us to find, and we make sure that we will not skip over it. If you have any questions during our Q&A and you want to ask it in person, we have a raise hand feature down there at the bottom. So welcome everybody. I am coming to you from sunny San Diego, California here, and wherever you are in the world, welcome to our event. Today we're going to be presenting an exclusive sneak peek and preliminary insights from an industry report not yet published anywhere else, highlighting the current state of the virtual and hybrid events industry, along with data surrounding metrics, the current state of the events industry, and the future of the events industry. So we have a great presentation. And our two leaders today are going to be a familiar face, Hoyin Cheung, the CEO and founder of Remo, whose core passions lie in helping businesses to grow in a scalable way with software tools as his team develops. And we have John Follett from Demand Metric. John is the co-founder of Demand Metric, a world-renowned research and advisory firm that specializes in helping mid-sized B2B companies. Sorry, if you guys would do me a favor and give me a warm hand welcome, clap those emojis, and we would like to invite them up to the stage. I will turn everything over to them now.
Thank you so much, Katrina. I am super excited to really introduce John from Demand Metric. At Remo, we're trying to understand more on what is the future of events, what is the direction that the virtual event industry is going. So Demand Metric has done an amazing job collecting all these fantastic survey results that are really very enlightening and very surprising in a lot of respects too. So without further ado, I would love to bring up John from Demand Metric. John, would you like to come up?
I'm coming, Hoyin. Thanks so much for the warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm just as excited as you are to be here today. I've got to say, I've been working with your team, Hoyin, for I guess almost 2 months now on putting this research study together. And this is my first live experience in the environment. We've been talking a lot about it, but I haven't had a chance to actually, really kind of engage with it. And I'm blown away. This is the closest thing to an in-person event that I've experienced in like 2 years. So I'm really excited to, just kind of take part in the hour, hopefully get a chance to network with everyone after the presentation is done, but especially share some of these results. We've been working hard. We really want to understand what's separating, the top performers in the events industry from everyone else. And we've got a preview of the results to share with everyone today. So without further ado, I think I'd like to share my screen and kind of walk through some of those results. And then maybe we can circle back around and take some questions. I think, there's been mentioned, there's a Q&A chat widget. We're not going to be able to cover everything today, but we're going to try and cover just a few key findings. If you got questions, please feel free to ask them. So let me flip over. I'll share my screen here. Okay, maybe you can just let me know if you can see this all right. Yeah.
Yep, looking good. And I'll let you take it away.
Okay, awesome. So you've already met both of us. When we were designing this research study, we really wanted to look towards the future. A lot's happened over the last, couple of years in the events industry. And we felt strongly about really trying to understand what was happening before the pandemic took place so that we could get a clear picture of a path forward. And ultimately, in the report that we're going to create, build a roadmap for everyone to just understand where they can get value out of the events that they host. So one of the very first questions that we asked was, what types of events were you leveraging before the pandemic? And we were pretty surprised. 70% of people said that they were only using in-person events before March of 2020. And also pretty surprisingly for us, only 4% said that they were already engaged in virtual. 23% were using a mix, so that kind of in-person as well as virtual blend. So this kind of laid the foundation for our analysis, and we really want to try and understand, what happened after that. The next question kind of goes into exactly that. People shifted. 70% of our study participants said that they shifted from in-person to virtual. 10% decided to take part in more hybrid events, and 11% actually canceled their entire events program. So in the full report, we're going to go into detail about the impact of those cancellations, but I can tell you that there was some pretty serious repercussions for businesses that decided just to not leverage events as a channel at all. And anecdotally, I work with a lot of our members. We've got a community of over 200,000, mostly marketing, sales, and product professionals. And when in certain industries, when events were canceled, the in-person events weren't an option, there was crazy panic. And I think that's pretty well represented in the data that we collected. For 42% of our study participants, they actually said that this shift to virtual was just not planned for, not expected, not budgeted for, nothing. So that was another kind of surprise to us, because I felt like I've been seeing more virtual and kind of hybrid events, especially even before the pandemic. But for 42% of our participants, they did not have a game plan put together in order to keep the events channel kind of humming along. So we asked why companies decided to go virtual or hybrid, and the top reason was because there are lots of businesses. Almost 80% of our study participants said that their businesses are driven by connecting people. And the other kind of reasons were definitely driven by engagement, just being able to engage with both customers as well as prospects. And from a marketing standpoint, really important to kind of keep that lead flow going. But was surprised to see that the importance of connections within businesses. I'm sure a lot of you here today probably can relate to that. But this was one of the really interesting findings, at least in our preliminary analysis. Another, pretty shocking thing was that even though this shift to virtual events was not planned, it wasn't expected, the overall satisfaction of events during the pandemic was still really, really high. Only 13% of our study participants said that they were dissatisfied with that shift. The vast majority said that they were either very satisfied or satisfied with their use of virtual or even hybrid events during the pandemic. So just because the in-person events were shut down doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of folks out there getting tremendous value from the events that they are hosting. So to shift gears here, I realize this is really small. I'm even going to have to lean in to see this, but on the top left-hand corner of your screen, the first pie chart there, that's the data for future plans for in-person events. And you'll see, I think it's 18.5% of people are already hosting in-person events. Almost 42% said that they're going to be hosting in-person events by the end of this year. And so, these things are definitely coming back online, albeit maybe a little bit slower than anyone would have expected. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the virtual event data. And we had over 60% of our study participants who were already hosting virtual events. Another 23% plan on hosting virtual events later this year. So that's over 80% of our study participants moving towards virtual, certainly by the end of this year, or already leveraging it. And then the hybrid events model, and this is one that we're going to talk about definitely in the report, but you'll see that 24%, we'll call it, are already hosting hybrid events, and another 30% plan on hosting hybrid events by the end of this year, with 23% having no plans to host hybrid at all. We wanted to understand why companies aren't going back to in-person, and you'll see here that just about 50% said that they don't feel like it's safe. So that's, a pretty large percentage of people who aren't comfortable going back into the real world, having these kind of networking experiences, being able to kind of learn in an in-person environment. But it's the other ones that really kind of jump out at me, like this kind of idea that we're all geographically distributed. I think we saw that as we were welcoming people to the stage here today. We're all in different locations, and people are getting used to working in remotely or in different at home or whatever it happens to be. So really kind of that work from anywhere seems to have an impact on events, at least the in-person ones. The other thing, I think it's safe to say, just having high either operating costs or overhead for in-person events is holding people back, as well as, this blue bar on the left here and the kind of green one on the right. People are getting value from virtual events. So maybe there's just going to be a little bit of a less emphasis on the need to be in person in order to create value for your customers and prospects. When we look at the future, we see that 40% of our participants plan on actually hosting more virtual events than ever before. 20% will host the same number, and 30% plan on hosting fewer. So there's still definitely some growth here, but when we look at the features that actually lead to virtual event success or hybrid events, we found that the top features that are sampled, and we had over 500 people reply to this survey, the number one thing was being able to have a flexible environment that actually enables interaction, which I think is really cool because I'm seeing that here today. And I've done other virtual events, and certainly that opportunity hasn't presented itself in such an easy way. The other thing too is just having small group interactions. And I think from a training standpoint, or even we do a lot of workshops, some really practical use cases in being able to have breakout rooms. And then other things like having integrated data points and customizable floor plans, also, really important features for a lot of folks out there. Last chart, I promise that I'm going to kind of leave a little bit of a carrot to dangle, but we asked a really important question, and that was, in comparison to the in-person events that you've hosted in the past or virtual events, how does this hybrid model, so that's kind of the blend of in-person and virtual, how does it perform in terms of helping you achieve your results? And only 10% of those who are using hybrid events said that it actually performs worse. Most people said that it actually performs better to have this hybrid model. And I think that's going to be a big part of the story as in-person events kind of come back online. Companies, people are still getting a lot of value out of virtual events, figuring out the right formula and recipe for really being able to extract value out of this hybrid model. So we've got the report. This is a sneak peek today. We can't give away the farm, but things that we plan on looking at within the data set, we asked about different roles that our respondents were in. So we've got really good data on marketing, product sales, training, agencies, like we've got it all. So we plan on doing some segmentation and being able to understand use cases and challenges and all that kind of stuff from those different perspectives. Also, we've got that satisfaction question, and I'm all about trying to figure out what helps people get results. So we're hoping to really figure out what the top performers, those who are the most satisfied with their events, their companies are growing revenue, what are they doing differently than everyone else? The other thing too is just, I'm calling it the impact of event maturity, but we're going to look at relationships in the data, like how many events are you actually hosting every year? Does that have an impact? If you're able to do more, does that mean you've got better processes in place and you're getting better results? We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. As well as, you know, the duration. A lot of people are kind of new to the virtual events world. We want to figure out what kind of impact that has. So without further ado, I think that was a lot to get through. Hopefully, hopefully not too much. But yeah, I think we're going to probably pass it over to Q&A, and happy to kind of share a little bit more info around this stuff.
John, thank you so much for that. I would like to bring Hoyin back up and switch over into our Q&A portion. I do want to reiterate that there's been a couple questions about how we can access this. We are recording this, and if you look in the general chat, I have the link to the Remo Revolution community where the recording will be posted next week with a transcript. And Megan, who is the head of marketing, has identified that we are still putting together some of the findings, but plan to have available early to mid-August per the report. So as a reminder, the Q&A session is open right now. If you have a question similar to what's already been asked, just simply upvote that. You can type it in. If you have a question you want to ask in person, go ahead and raise your hand using that raise hand feature, and we will invite you up. I already have a hand up, so I am going to invite Jared. Jared, come on up and ask your question, please.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Thank you for sharing such great wisdom, folks. So Hoyin and John, what surprised you most about this data? There's a lot of points here, but in your example, in your cases, what surprised you the most?
Great question, Jared. I can take that first, Hoyin, if you're open to that. But for me, I feel like in any given role, there's such an importance about planning for the future and having a game plan in place. And just this huge impact that canceling in-person events had, and how many people were forced to unexpectedly shift to a virtual strategy so quickly and take that pivot. I figured more people had been kind of planning for that or trying to leverage, you know, a hybrid event model. But I was just blown away by how many people just did not see this coming, and the fact that those, even who didn't see it coming, are still getting great results with virtual events. So that was the thing that really kind of jumped out at me. But Hoyin, what about you? I'm sure you probably have a few things there.
Yeah, I think what made me most surprised was how relatively satisfied people were about virtual events, which tells me that people are learning really fast, they're adapting really fast, and that people are willing to kind of go through the virtual event process and seek those good results. Like they're not just like trying it and then, okay, it didn't work. Like they're really keep on going. And I think given that like the pandemic is starting to kind of leave us and the circumstances are changing, that's really surprising to me because, you know, I thought maybe they would start to, you know, a lot of people have been saying that they want to go to go back to physical, but you know, what's interesting is what a lot of people say that they're doing we're still trying to figure out if that really will come to fruition as the future is still very uncertain. But that was like a really major surprise for me.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jared. Everybody, if you guys want to use the raise hand feature or the thumbs up, were there things that you found that were surprising in this report? Were the things that kind of made you do a double take? Everybody out in the audience, if so, just give me a thumbs up or go ahead and raise your hand if you guys were caught off guard. Yeah, I see a couple thumbs up going. So that was really great information. So John, this is for you. Laszlo is asking, and a bunch of others want to know, who were the respondents? Where was the base of respondents? Where did they come from?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great question, Laszlo. We've got a survey panel that we've created and built over the years, but we actually co-fielded this one with Remo, and which is pretty unique. Typically, we're the only ones who field the research. It's usually into senior level marketing, product, salespeople. But bringing, the Remo customer base and also some people who are having conversations with Remo into the mix is going to allow us to do some segmentation. And I'm hoping that we can get some really useful insights for the Remo customer base based on some of the responses that we've collected. But we actually, if you include partials, we have like thousands of responses. But after kind of cleaning up the sample, it's typically, I guess about 10 different job roles that we really focused on. So the survey was in the field for about 3 weeks, and we've got a lot of good data to sort through. So really excited to kind of share the full report with everyone later on.
Awesome. Thank you for that, John. I'm actually going to jump one down into the question about how are hybrid events being defined, because this is something that I'm finding when I work with hosts here in Remo and whenever we look in the community, and a lot of feedback is that people are defining hybrid events in a variety of different ways. So what is between Hoyin and John, how are you defining what is a hybrid event?
Hoyin, do you want to take this one?
So I think the report has a definition as well. So I'll explain kind of like how I see hybrid, and then I'll let John kind of describe the definition that they've been doing. So hybrid is a pretty tricky one, right? In my mind, there's two types of hybrid. There's sequential hybrid, which means people are doing a virtual event, then a physical, then a virtual, then a physical. So it's like separate events at different points in time. Then there's parallel hybrid, which is virtual and physical happening at the same time, viewing the same speaker. And those two audiences, right now in general, they're separated, but in the future they might be interacting with each other, but they're all kind of like you can think of as two separate spaces you could think of. John, I'll also let you describe that too.
I couldn't have answered it better myself. The latter, so the parallel track is the one that we actually took within this study. So kind of combining the virtual world with in person. But I mean, Hoyin raised just a fantastic point there. And more, as I'm getting hammered with, trade show and speaking opportunities in the fall for in-person events, I'm finding that at least it seems like some events are moving in a direction of having a smaller group together in person, but broadcasting basically, a virtual component. To Hoyin's point, though, the future would allow for really deep interactions and engagements regardless of where you are. And I'm hoping that we're going to be able to see a lot more of that in the very near term, because even though you're not necessarily there in person doesn't mean you can't still get a lot of value virtually. So yeah, but that's a great question, and something that I don't think there's like a common singular definition of what exactly a hybrid event is at this point. So Hoyin described that just perfectly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, guys. And that does echo what we're seeing and hearing in our spaces as well. So moving on, we have a good question about how reliable do you feel the data is? Because what people say now versus in 6 months could be different as the circumstances change. So I have my own ideas, but I'd like to hear from you guys.
Yeah. I'll handle that one, because that's one of the things that we take pretty seriously around here is having a high degree of confidence in the data and the analysis as well. So we won't publish anything that isn't statistically relevant. That's just, really important to us. But we feel as though the data set that we've collected is really, really good. I mean, it's across a variety of roles, across a variety of industries. It gives us, we casted a wide net in terms of getting responses. We achieved that objective. So as we go through the analysis, I think we're going to have some really, really useful insights for everyone across the board.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Christopher asking, will the full report include a breakdown of not only the job roles, but also the industries that were represented?
That's Christopher. Thanks for the question. That's the goal, right? It all comes down to how many responses we've got per industry. But one of the most frequent questions that we get with any research effort that we go through is, hey, what about my industry? We're totally different than, XYZ. So we're going to do our best to try and cull out some insights based on the industries. But at the very least, I think we're going to have some useful information, maybe some kind of high-level content that can be used for just informational purposes only as well. So whatever we've got, we're going to share. I promise that. And certainly we'll kind of keep tabs on the industry data as well and how that's trending.
So these, Hoyin, I'm sorry, do you have any caveats to that, Hoyin? All right, so this is for both Hoyin and John. I'm going to combine the next two because they are kind of connected. Do you think that organizations will keep the virtual hybrid in their event portfolio moving forward? And with the world opening up, do you anticipate virtual events will continue to be actively used or decline in importance? Where I'm seeing things is that businesses are receiving huge monetary savings by not sending people en masse to places far reaching. And now people are understanding that they can reach a worldwide audience in a way that they couldn't before. So what is your take on that? Do you think people are going to keep it in their virtual hybrid in their portfolio? And do you think it's going to be actively used or decline in importance while the world starts to open up, close down, and then open up?
For me, and Hoyin, I'm sure you've got a really interesting perspective on this, but for me, there's no doubt in my mind that the virtual and hybrid events models will both continue to gain traction. There's the obvious, right? Being geographically distributed and having a place that you can bring people together where we're kind of in our own environments, but together is going to be like absolutely critical, I think. But there's a lot more to that story as well. Like, I think that as people we're not really used to interacting in the same way, even at an in-person. Like, I have yet to actually attend an in-person event in 2 years, which is really crazy because I did the whole circuit for years and years. But I think that we've developed really good skills online for being able to network and still derive value and have important conversations and move business along, that I'm just seeing kind of the writing on the wall for this is something that's going to be here to stay. And companies are already have told us that they're getting great results. So, Hoyin, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, one of the crazy things is that we've seen a lot of companies get really good results, like in nonprofits that we serve. A lot of them are seeing 3x more fundraising money generated through virtual events because of the scale and reach they're able to get. That's number one. Number two is that what this has done is that it's opened a lot of doors for a lot of event types where the parties are very geographically distributed and they are hosting very highly frequent events. So when you see what we're seeing in those use cases, it's very difficult to go back to physical in those use cases. And so that's something where we've seen a pattern where like they're reluctant to go back to physical. The third part is what we've noticed is that it serves a different audience. That's actually the key thing. So we have a lot of customers where they become more global, or their audience is becoming more distributed, or their audience feels that, I want to attend a virtual event because I'm just not as free, or, I don't want to go through all the travel as I used to anymore, because before you didn't have an option. So now there is that option. So what they're finding is you host a physical event, you're not attracting the same groups and the same types of people as you were before. So what that means is that you will have to have both in order to cater to both types of audiences. I think that is what's really going to persist, and that's what we've seen in our early data as well.
I actually just have one thing to add to that, Hoyin, because you raised so many good points there. But when we look at in-person events, oftentimes there's a lot of money, there's a lot of planning, a lot of coordination, a lot of work that goes into creating a single one in-person event if you're hosting that in-person event. I'm a big advocate of taking an agile approach, and I think that what the virtual environment opens up is an opportunity to experiment with different formats and different just delivering different experiences without having to put all of your eggs in one basket and worrying, are people going to show up? So because of that, and just the need for kind of constant innovation in the environment that we're in today, I see this as presenting a great opportunity to do, things even much differently and probably better than you can in the physical world. So, yeah.
Perfect. And so the timer at the top of the screen is telling me we are starting to run out of time for our Q&A, but we do have a couple more questions. John, can you please speak to the statistical significance of this report? What is the big takeaways?
Yeah. So in terms of the big takeaways or the significance, sorry, I didn't see that question come through, but I mean, yeah, we've got a high degree of confidence, like I mentioned in the data. The statistical significance of the data is incredibly high. In terms of kind of the big takeaways, like I mentioned before, I think that it's one thing to ask a question and get a response and have a chart that we can share. It's a whole other thing when we start doing some crosstab analysis and looking at the relationships in the data. That's where we're going to really get some key insights. And that's what we'll be working on probably for the next several weeks. So, but I can say that everything that comes back will definitely have a high degree of statistical significance, anything at least that's published. And so, yeah, look forward to sharing it with everyone that's joined us today.
Awesome. So Hoyin and John, any last thoughts, any last takeaways while I give you guys a warning order that this is last question? I do have one from Laszlo, but I think we pretty much covered it because we're asking if both in-person and hybrid will prevail. Do you think they're going to fit within each other's portfolio? So I think we kind of covered that one already. Can't come up on stage, but anybody else has any last minute questions on this topic? This is the last. Well, Hoyin and John, last thoughts, wrapping up thoughts.
I'll let you go first, John.
All right, cool.
Actually, you know what? Laszlo did raise his hand. I'm going to bring Laszlo up real quick to ask his question.
Sure. Cool.
Just to make sure I had it right so he can explain it.
Very short question. The key part to this question is three types of events: the hybrid versus the in-person versus the totally virtual events would sit in the portfolio of each and every organizer. So they will use these types of events mixed within a year, let's say, or the statistical data shows that they are prevailing because different stick with different types. That's the key question. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So Laszlo, I don't think there's a clear answer yet. There definitely is the need, I think, in a lot of businesses to leverage different formats of events, whether it's in person, virtual, or kind of a combination of both. We'll definitely be looking in to try and better understand the preferred, option. But I think what this study has definitely done is it's built a very clear-cut case for leveraging virtual events, especially in times of transition and kind of turmoil. They have prevailed. There's no doubt about that, and they're not going anywhere either, according to our sample and study participants. So I think the future for virtual is very bright. And for me, I'll kind of tack on my closing thought because I know we've kind of got to close out, and I want Hoyin to answer as well. But for me, this type of events environment gives us almost like the best of both worlds, where we can still interact and network and see each other. It's so cool that you're up here on stage with us. But be able to have the cost savings of being able to do this from the comfort of our own homes. So. But Hoyin, did you have anything kind of to add on to that at all?
No, I think you said it. I think you said it really well. I think it's the future is definitely with virtual. Like, we've identified a lot of use cases that are not going away, and then after that, it's going to be seeing what the preferences are of each of the organization. and how distributed like their audience is. I think those are kind of the key things that I think is really what's going to determine which use cases are going to stay, which use cases are not. Yeah, and I would agree with you, John.
Yeah, the final kind of thing I'll tack on are just the challenges, because we did ask about just overall event challenges. What are people struggling with? And, you know, it's probably not a huge surprise. And I didn't share this in my preview, but it was keeping people's attention. So I think we've done a pretty decent job of looking at the numbers here today of doing that, hopefully, but you can tell us. But I think that's something that you struggle with a little bit in the virtual environment. And then when it comes down to figuring out what features deliver, you know, those engagements that we're all trying to seek, that's something that we need to pay attention to. And that's really what's going to, I think, lead us in the right direction for getting more value out of virtual. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We have a lot of really great comments inside the chat about how you guys are using virtual platforms, what you're seeing. So please, if you missed anything in the chat, please go back and read. I would really like to thank John and Hoyin for being here today. Hoyin, we do have an off-topic question that a lot of people have voted on, so I wanted to save it for the very end if you'd want to touch on it. Otherwise, we can, if you at a table and you want to touch on it down there, so I'll leave that question up to you.
People can come look for me. I'll stick around for a bit. So if you have any more questions for me, I'll be there and I'll answer that question on the table.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so very much. I really, really appreciate the time that you guys have given. If we could give them a big Remoji round of applause for all that wonderful information that they have shared. Thank you guys. I'm going to queue up I'm going to queue up our official little happy applause video. So thank you guys a lot from this. I hope everybody did as well. You can see emojis flying, that other folks really did get a lot out of this. As a reminder, it will be recorded. It has been recorded and it will be shown. So just a couple pieces of information before we go back down into conversation mode for networking. You will be able to find Hoyin in the top left table named Remo. If you wish to talk with John, he will be at the top right table named Demand Metric. If you wish to learn more about Remo or talk to any of my teammates, we have a Remo logo on our avatar, and we will be at the bottom. So I will show you, I'll share my screen in 1 second to show you what to expect. But before I do that, we do have a lot of really good programming coming up for you in the coming weeks. Tomorrow, we actually have a masterclass at 9 a.m. on poster sessions, expos, and academic use for Remo. Every Monday, we have Success Labs, which is a weekly topic-based discussion about virtual events or virtual events with Remo or things that we have upcoming with Remo. We have a Minute to Win It participant game show where you can learn how to host a game show in Remo on the 28th. And then we have a few other events that are coming up with some fireside chats with some of our agency partners. So I am putting all the links right now, right there in the chat. If you want a full listing when we go into conversation mode, we do have that in one of the banner tabs that you can choose. Megan, if I'm forgetting anything, please pop up in here, let me know. And when we go down to network, I do have a couple tables set up. So here's a couple prompt questions for you. What surprised you most about this data? What are you going to use to inform your strategy moving forward? And then given that the report is still being consolidated, what more would you like to see? So here's 3 really good points. And just to share the screen, I'm going to show you guys just the quick layout of what to expect to our conversation mode. This is in a side building, not this building. So click on any one of these banners to learn more information. You can see our table names. So Hoyin will be up here, and John will be down here. My teammates will be here. If you'd like to talk about topic 1, we have a table for you. We have a table for you, topic 3. If you would just like to hang out in one of our lounges or open networking, you are free to do that as well. But please click around, move floors, and we will see you down in conversation mode. So we really hope that you got a lot out of this. I look forward to seeing you I look forward to seeing you down there, talking with you more. If you have any questions, I will be down there as well. And the monocle guy, Hoyin, do you want to talk about the monocle guy? I think he's just like questioning, or he's like a questioning emoji, right? Our little monocle emoji.
Well, the monocle emoji is if you have a question or you're not sure.
Yeah.
That's what the monocle is. Yeah.
All right. So thank you guys. I appreciate your time and effort for everybody coming here. I appreciate you guys for hanging around afterwards, and we will see you down in conversation mode. Thanks.